Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., former Assistant Secretary of State under the President Reagan and Bush 41 administrations and spokesman for the Association of Mature Americans, a.k.a. AMAC, Robert Charles. Robert, I'm a little bit astounded watching this unfold over the week. What I'm astounded is not the talking points we're hearing from the Democrats and not defense of the President of the United States from the White House counsel. What's astounding me is the format and the fact that these Democrats are allowed to effectively repeat their message over and over and over again. Now, I grant you that 98% of Americans have a life, and they're not watching this wall-to-wall like I am. I have no life, but this is my job to do this kind of thing. But in the end, what happens is it gets regurgitated in the mainstream media, and this great lie that Joseph Goebbels would be proud of gets repeated and regurgitated in the mainstream media and social media over and over and over again. Are you astounded like I am that we're dealing with this kind of format that, in effect, kind of plays into the Democrats' hands?
I guess my surprise goes all the way back to the House hearings. I mean, I think the average American looking at these hearings, to the extent they're watching the presentation in the Senate at all, I think they're either infuriated, maybe embarrassed, at least disappointed, because what you've got is a circus being brought into an opera house. I mean, you have it's just a string of misrepresentations, one after another after another. And obviously, you're right, no pause to directly confront each of those misrepresentations. I look at this and I say maybe it's a chess game within a chess game within a chess game, in that if this format allows the Democrats to essentially overplay their hand, and that's what they're doing, Nadler and Schiff and others, you know, they're talking about the fact that we're sinking into tyranny, that this is someone behaving like a king, that this was bribery, that all kinds of, hell and brimstone will fall and descend on us. And I think most Americans look at this and say, you know, I think this is a little too much, a little too late. More importantly, I think the lady doth protest too much. And I think that at the end, most Americans say, you know what, I don't need witnesses. I just need a vote because I know where I stand. To the extent that they did bring in a witness, I will tell you it would be devastating for them. I don't really think, this is why I say a game within a game. I know they're asking, and Schumer's asking, I saw your clip there, asking for witnesses, in particular Bolton and Mick Mulvaney. At the end of the day, they don't really want them, because if this swap was to get Hunter Biden in, it would completely kick the legs out from underneath the first article. The first article is abuse of power. And what does that mean? If the president could actually hear, well, let's put it this way. The facts are that the elder Biden and the younger Biden went to Ukraine on Air Force Two. There was a multi-million-dollar contract that fell into the hands of the younger Biden, for which he was not qualified. And later, the older Biden, in front of the Council on Foreign Relations, goes out and says that he pressured the Ukrainian government to fire the investigator, the prosecutor who was investigating his son's company. If that does amount to a colorable claim of anything criminal, then the president was justified under the 2001 U.S.-Ukraine treaty to ask for that information. And the reason is obvious. We don't get a get-out-of-jail-free card because we're running for president. That's the end of Article number 1.
I get it, Robert. I understand on substance, but I'm talking about the process here. This is mystifying to me.
Yeah.
I guess it's Mitch McConnell being able to say, you know what, I kept an open mind in this I think he's thinking about his legacy. That he, quote, kept an open mind, he kept the process. He kept the process open, right? And so he can say that, yeah, we entertain the notion of witnesses, and I think in the end there's going to be no witnesses in this process. But why even give them an inch? Because you know the Democrats, you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And here's a representation of that. Roll tape.
We again urge you to allow the House to call both Eisenberg and Bolton, as well as other key witnesses.
We have asked for witnesses. We didn't ask for Democratic witnesses who might be, you know, talking on our side. These are the president's appointees.
It's about the need for us here in this great chamber to have a fair trial with witnesses.
Notwithstanding the president's complete stonewalling, his attempt to block all witnesses.
All right. So the point here is they're on message, right? And so I saw this headline, Robert, in Politico, says that Mulvaney is going to be at the center of a fight over witnesses. This is an important moment in time to educate the American people. You can't allow a chief of staff, an acting chief of staff, whatever, to be pulled into this process and violate the separation of powers. In doing so, this would be taking a shredder to the United States Constitution. And this is the message for some reason. I don't understand why the Republicans aren't saying it the way I am.
I think that they ought to be. I think at the end of the day, what's happening here is that McConnell knows that impeachment's a big word, it's a big moment, and he wants to if anybody's going to do the talking, he wants to let the Democrats just go ahead and run out their line. But at the end of the day, I also think history is our great teacher here. And I ran the better part of a committee that looked into lots of things, the Waco, INS investigation, et cetera, and we were constantly being blocked. Our subpoenas were being blocked by the Clinton White House. So it's not at all uncommon that that kind of thing would happen. As to the format, I think that you could say it could be done differently, but I don't think anybody really wants these witnesses because I think that's a talking point. But if they got them, it would be devastating because you'd have reciprocity and you'd have the Bidens in. You might even have to have Schiff testify under oath. You might have to have his staff testify. But executive privilege is being protected by this president.
Right.
He has a right to try to quash subpoenas. They never gave him that opportunity. They didn't let the courts play out. When one of the courts got close to ruling on it, they pulled their subpoena back. So this is a great big, it's a great big circus act. And I really think the average American sees it. I mean, I guess my faith is in average Americans.
I hope so. I hope you're right. I love your optimism. I love optimism on this program because at times I tend to be a little bit on the pessimistic side because I know the history of the GOP. I would just love Lindsey Graham or somebody on the GOP to come out in the well at some point, or the impeachment managers, I'm sorry, the representatives of the White House counsel, come out and say, you know what, Chuck Schumer, yeah, okay, if you want Mulvaney, then we're going to call Eric Ciaramella. That's our first witness. Blow it open. Do it. They've already cheapened the process. The Democrats fight asymmetrically, Robert. They fight asymmetrically, and the Republicans are still fighting symmetrically. This is how we won a Revolutionary War, because we fought asymmetrically, and now the Republicans are acting more like the British and getting slaughtered in the process. Robert, out of time.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.